Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Peru Channel podcast. I'm your host, Philip, and this week I'm going to talk about why it's been so long since I've done a podcast and kind of ramble a little bit about some of my ideas for the coming year. Because there are a lot of things that I really want to change, some things I need to change, and I thought I'd let you know that I'm going to try to get back into this with a little bit of a different approach. Oh, and by the way, if it sounds like I'm a little bit congested, that's because, well, I'm a little congested. I got a bit of a cold that I'm dealing with. I spent 3 days in Cajamarca in northern Peru last week and spent some time filming out in cool, rainy weather. So came down with a little bit of a cold, but it's nothing bad, and I'm going to be okay. To be honest, I'm not sure I can put into words the reasons why I haven't done a podcast in so long, as I've been trying to understand myself exactly what's been going through my mind so much that I couldn't find much motivation to produce anything. I think the best explanation is simply that it's been a very difficult time for me over the past year or two. I'm not going to get into my personal situation, as frankly, I don't think anyone really cares, but finding the motivation to share has been challenging to say the least. Dealing with everything alone makes it even more of a challenge. So where am I going from here? I've tried all kinds of things to get back into the regular swing of things lately. I miss doing this podcast because, frankly, it's a lot of fun to sit down and just talk about things that I'm passionate about. Even after nearly 6 months of not publishing anything, it's still receiving nearly 1,000 downloads a month, which will certainly go up as people begin planning for the upcoming tourist season. What I can do is talk. After nearly 30 years working in front of an audience, that's something that I'm pretty good at. I've finally gotten over the fear of listening to my own voice on podcasts and on video, something that pretty much everyone who starts out doing this has to deal with, and don't have any problems with that anymore, or at least not much. So a few weeks ago, I decided to just go back to sharing things for the sole reason of sharing whatever I want to share. There's no motivation to gain an audience, especially on YouTube, where I was spending far too much time. If people like what I share, they'll let me know. If not, I'll keep doing it, at least for a little while longer. I've been putting off podcasting for a couple of months despite having multiple episodes nearly complete and ready to record and publish. The biggest reason is that podcasts take more work, while putting a photo on Instagram is almost instantaneous, and even posting a video when I'm not worried about making it perfect is pretty easy because I've got years of experience editing videos, so I can do a simple video edit in a matter of minutes. My plan in the future is to go back to doing podcasts just for me about topics that interest me at the moment. If I talk about something that doesn't interest you, you can rest assured that there'll be something coming up later that I think will capture your interest. Or you can politely ask in the show notes page comment section. I know people are always looking for reliable, honest, and factual information about Peru, which, to be honest, is often hard to find, and that's basically the reason why I started this in the first place. I'm also going to try to incorporate more personal stories too. So many things happen almost every day that I think will be extremely interesting to those wanting to know about Peru. I may not be the best storyteller in the world, but I sure have a lot of stories to share that I think you'll find interesting. Let's be honest. It's pretty much impossible to spend so much time wandering around the rainforest or exploring little-known ruins in the Andes or just hanging out with real Peruvians without some amazing things happening. So hopefully in the coming year you're going to see more content, but with a definite plan along the way that is probably more about no plan at all. I just want to talk about or write about or make videos about whatever is going on around me at the time and sharing it. Whatever I talk about and whatever I share, you can rest assured that it's coming from me and not from AI and not from some superficial experience that I had in Peru. That's the kind of stuff that pushed me to share in the first place. Everything that I share is my own and not artificially produced or stolen from someone else. Those are trends that are becoming more and more common across social media as the big companies like Facebook and Instagram and X and pretty much everybody have learned that they can make a lot more money off garbage than they can off honest interaction. It's really sad, but that's just the way that the world and social media is starting to work. After 20 years of experience in Peru, combined with a constant desire to seek out new experiences through constant travel around the country, I think I've got a lot to share, and that's what I'm going to be doing in the next year. So let's get on with this episode. I originally planned to do a long piece on should you visit the Cusco region during the rainy season. It was basically complete about a month or two ago, but things have changed. For the past several years, we've been going through pretty severe drought here in this region. If you've been to Machu Picchu, you've probably seen the Rio Urubamba below the site in one of two situations. Either roaring rapids or so dry, as it's been in recent years, that you can walk across in many places. Most people don't realize that the high water has been much lower for several years, while the low water season has lasted much longer than normal. To be honest, I'd forgotten what a normal rainy season is like, but this year nature decided to return with a vengeance. The rainy season in the Cusco region normally sees rain about 4 to 5 days a week and often more. The rains can be lengthy, especially overnight when it can rain for hours, or more commonly simply be extensive cloudy skies with short, light to moderate rains popping up any time of the day. Because of the constant cloud cover this year, summers in Cusco are normally colder than the winters for most of the day. Winter nights get cold, near freezing in the city is expected, but the powerful high-altitude Andean sun warms things up very quickly, leading to hot afternoons. By hot, I mean around 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 degrees Celsius. By comparison, the constant heavy clouds in the summer, combined with the dry air, keeps the afternoon highs noticeably cooler. It's far more common to see Cusqueños wearing heavy coats in the summer afternoon than in a winter afternoon. Peru has been undergoing some of the worst rains in a long time this year. Landslides, floods, impassable roads have become the norm since November. A few weeks ago, for example, the most popular route at Machu Picchu, other than the main ones through the site, had to be closed as a landslide took out much of a 15-meter segment along the mountainside on the way up to Huayna Picchu. Huayna Picchu is the mountain in the background of everyone's postcard photos above the site, and is easily the most popular and most sought-after ticket at Machu Picchu, besides the simple trails that go through the center of the site. The famous Inca Trail had its annual closure for maintenance during February extended an extra 15 days into this month, which is March if you're listening to this later. The reason was to make sure the trail was safe for hikers throughout the route, which climbs up and down a lot of varied terrain over the Andes Mountains. The Regional Ministry of Culture announced that a study would be made last week of the Inca Trail by several relevant parties, and just last night, it was announced that the Inca Trail would finally reopen again on April 1st, which is this coming Tuesday. There will be some changes to the routes and campsites, but since almost everyone who goes on the Inca Trail has never been there before and is going with a sponsored agency and guide, I doubt anyone's going to notice the changes. Flooding in places around the country that rarely floods has become commonplace. Many roads have been blocked for long periods, disrupting transportation and communication, and even bridges have been washed out. Many communities around Peru have been completely isolated, homes have been washed away, and sadly, many people have lost their lives in the flooding this year. As I record this on March 30th, 2025, the forecast was for rains to continue around the country throughout the month and possibly into April. But to be honest, in the Cusco region, it's definitely slowed considerably in the past 2 weeks, giving all of us hope that the rainy season is finally behind us. People around here are commenting that it's not nearly as cold during the day as it has been in the past, which is kind of strange when you think about it. Summer is now turning into fall, and it's actually starting to warm up. Still, if you're coming to Peru soon or planning a trip during this time in the future, be prepared. When I'm in town, I simply never, and I mean never, leave home without my umbrella during this time of the year. I wear waterproof shoes all the time, except sometimes when I'm out making a short trip to the store or somewhere else nearby. Once the dry season is clearly here, then I'll go back to carrying less and wearing different shoes around town. But right now, I'm not going to get caught out in the rain. I'm not much into ponchos, but I do carry rain gear, especially when I'm going farther away from places where I know I can find shelter. I'm pretty good at finding places to hide if the weather gets bad, but sometimes that's not always possible. For instance, several years ago, I was up in the mountains several hours above Cusco when a massive sleet storm appeared from almost out of nowhere over the mountains. That, by the way, is something that you have to be extremely conscious of when hiking in the Andes, as a storm literally may be minutes away, but you can't see it as it's behind the mountains. This particular storm turned everything white and the trail completely disappeared. What made it really bad was a trail pass along a mountain slope that quickly became a continuous stream flowing down the mountain and into the deep canyon below. It helped that I knew the route well enough that I could go cross country if necessary, and I wasn't going to get lost. But the route was also far above the tree line of the slope, which meant it quickly became a muddy, sloshy mess where I couldn't see where I was stepping thanks to the heavy ice that had accumulated in a few minutes. Knowing that I was a couple hours from safety, I had to push on as it was cold and my pants quickly became soaked. It wasn't terribly cold, but stopping would have just invited the possibility of hypothermia. While it was a worrisome hour or so before I was in a place where I knew I would be okay, constant movement was just necessary to keep me relatively warm, while my biggest fear was slipping down the mountainside into the canyon to my left. The last hour or so was just basically uncomfortable. Though I was well protected by my Marmot Precept rain jacket, it's an older model, I vowed never to go out again without rain pants. Is this a normal experience for anyone visiting Peru? Almost certainly not. If you're on a trek, there's a good chance that you're with an agency who will absolutely make sure you're safe. Few people disappear in the mountains or the rainforest alone like I sometimes do. But it does happen. A few weeks ago, a German tourist decided to enter the Inca Trail route on his own without permission, and he became lost. After 4 days alone in the mountains, he was found by rescuers in decent shape, but obviously showing signs of exhaustion and hypothermia. His lack of respect for not only the laws about accessing the trail, but for the Andes Mountains themselves could have cost him his life, and at the very least, inconvenienced a lot of other people who had to go out looking for him. While I talk about bad stuff in this rainy season, there are also some positives as long as you're willing to accept the possibility that you're going to get wet at some point in your time here. To be honest, my favorite part of the rainy season is that the crowds are gone. I certainly don't miss things like having to wait for seemingly endless tourists blocking the sidewalks while taking selfies when I just am trying to get home. Cusco returns to Cusco again during the rainy season and the slow season, and at least for a short time, it's no longer packed with tourists intent on acting like tourists without realizing that this is not Disneyland, and it's home to an awful lot of people who still have to go about their daily lives amidst the throngs of visitors. As Peru moves into the fall, and as I said, hopefully the rainy season has finally come to an end, it looks as if this is going to be a normal year. After being rescheduled already twice, the opening of the new airport, which was supposed to open today, has been delayed again for the third time. There's a lot of things that are just simply not ready, especially for vehicular access, but they vow to make it work. While the airport itself should be spectacular and safe with secure transportation available, that part of the airport is on the ocean side of the current property and is one of the most dangerous places in the country. When you visit, don't venture outside looking for a cheap taxi, or it can end up costing you a lot more than planned. So far, at least in the last few days, when they said it will not open today, there has been no new date set, which is kind of unusual because each time in the past, they have set a new date immediately when they had to reschedule. So now we're all wondering when it's going to become operational. Another thing that's been an issue for Peru over the past few years is political and social unrest. In 2025, this definitely should be at a minimum, and probably 99.99% of tourists will never even notice there's anything happening here. But with the presidential and congressional elections coming next April 2026, you can expect the preceding months of that year to be potentially volatile, especially after the past few years since the 2021 elections. This time next year could be quite an experience for all of us, and we're quite curious to see what's going to happen. Well, that's it for this episode. It's a little short and I probably rambled on too much, but I've got another one almost ready about the dark side of tourism in Peru with a focus on the region that I know best. I've put it off for a long time because I know I'm going to catch a lot of grief because of it, but I think people who are considering coming to Peru need to know that everything is not as it seems here, or at least not always it seems here, and problems, serious problems, including deaths, do sometimes occur thanks not as much to the stupidity of some people, but to the greed and corruption within the tourism industry here. In the meantime, let me know of anything that you'd like me to talk about in future episodes. As I mentioned before, you can let me know on the show notes page linked from wherever you're listening to this right now, along with any comment, question, or criticism that you care to show. Everything is welcome, and I really, really like hearing whatever people have to say about this podcast or any of the stuff that I share. One upcoming episode, by the way, that I've already started working on is just a list of questions that I see on social media by people planning trips and the answers I can give based on real knowledge and experience. I constantly see people sharing misinformation based on something they heard or on their experience, which really isn't relevant to the question. I know a lot of people mean well, but if it's wrong, it's still wrong. If you've been in Peru for 3 days, went to Machu Picchu for a day trip, you really aren't qualified to tell people when the best time of the year is to visit or what the best routes are if you only know one particular route. Oh, and before I forget, another quick question. Do you think an episode once every 2 weeks is going to be okay? Once a week is probably too much, and I'm probably not going to won't do that, but once a month seems too far apart between episodes, especially with the busy season coming and people making plans. So I was thinking that maybe once every 2 weeks is going to be okay. Again, let me know in the show notes comment section. As always, thank you so much for patiently listening to this podcast. Keep an ear out for the next episode coming soon, which may actually be less than 2 weeks. And I hope to see you in Peru soon. Thanks again. Ciao.